The NBA offseason is officially here, and Kevin Durant has requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. Shams Charania broke the news just a couple of moments ago, and I can't even believe it. I thought this might be a boring free agency or a boring offseason. Get Jalen Brunson and maybe something else. But Kevin Durant says, hold my beer. I request a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. Adrian Wojnarowski backed that up and said Brooklyn Nets GM Sean Marks is working with KD and his business manager Rick Kleiman on finding a trade for the franchise's star, Kleiman tells ESPN. Woj also said, as the Nets prepare to move on from one of the most valuable trade assets ever on the market, the entire roster will be available to discuss in deals, sources tell ESPN. Teams have been calling on Durant, and the Nets will certainly look for a historic return on players and draft picks. This is crazy. The NBA offseason is here, and that is why you subscribe. We're about to get into the latest New York Knicks news and rumors, so hit that big red button, because if the Knicks trade for KD, if they go and sign Jalen Brunson, we are going to be doing a video as soon as possible. So lock us in, hit that big red button, and help us get to 8,000 subscribers. Welcome into New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. I'm ready for NBA free agency. I'm ready to see what Leon Rose is going to do. We know they want to go out and sign Jalen Brunson, but what is the next move going to be? I think that's the most important move for Leon Rose. But on today's show, there's some trade rumors circling Julius Randle. We'll break those down. Then we'll talk about the latest Mitchell Robinson rumors. Is he going to come back to the New York Knicks? And then we'll take a look at a report that the Knicks are looking at two big men in free agency to be backups to Mitchell Robinson. But first, let's focus in on Julius Randle. The latest reports are, according to Ian Begley, is the Knicks have inquired with other teams about moving Randle, and then Sam Amico of Hoops Hype says Randle is a name to watch on the trade market. I've also seen Fred Katz say in a space that the Knicks have talked to other teams about trading Julius Randle. And this is important because, as we know, Randle did not have a good 2021-2022 with the Knicks. He was great in 2020 and 2021. He was an all-NBA player, most improved player in the league. But is it the right move for the Knicks to trade Julius Randle while his trade value is lower than it should be and is lower than it ever has before? But this was a full tweet from Sam Amico of Hoops Hype. He says, players I've been told that once could be on the move via trade during the offseason are DeAndre Ayton, Julius Randle, and who gives a crap? Maybe OG Anunoby would be a guy I'd like to see the Knicks target a good 3-and-D wing. But this is about Julius Randle. And at this point, I think this is the question all Knicks fans have to answer, no matter what you get back for Randle. Is trading him addition by subtraction? Just getting him out of the room, getting off of that salary cap number of 23 that it gets more in every single year. We'll show you that in a second. Is getting rid of him, does it make it life easier for a guy like Jalen Brunson, a guy like RJ Barrett, a guy like Obi Toppin and Cam Reddish and Jericho Sims and all the young guys we have on this team? Does getting him out help these guys reach their potential? It's going to open up more minutes for them, especially Obi Toppin. We know we want Obi to play more and Julius to play less. But at what expense? If you only can dump Julius Randle in a salary dump type of move and you don't really get anything back and you have to attach assets, does it make all that much sense? My honest opinion is it does, because Randle, I'm not sure we'll ever get back to the player he was in the 2020 season, where he was arguably a top 10 player that season. Second team All-NBA, most improved, averaged 24, 10, and 6 with great efficiency, 46% from the field and almost 42% from three. But then he took a step back. And the raw numbers this past year, where he played in 72 games, doesn't look bad, right? 20 points per game, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Those are great numbers. But you've got to look at the efficiency of 41% from the field and 30.8% from three. Julius, he shot 41.1% from three in 2020, while shooting 41.1% from the deck as a whole this past year. And it's not just the play of Julius Randle. It's what he's done off the court, the body language, everything else, everything that's added up for us New York Knicks fans that were singing the praises of Randle just 6-7 months ago to now wanting him to be shipped out, from the thumbs down incidents to the multiple fights, to the career-high 12 technical fouls. The dude was texting in post-game press conferences with the media. He slapped the laptop out of the assistant coach's hand. He has $163,000 in fines just from this season. He wasn't speaking to the media for stretches. The lineup announcements where he wasn't participating and then dressing by himself in the locker room. Julius Randle alienated himself from being a team member and a teammate on the Knicks. And I don't know if he can ever get back to being someone that R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin, and this young core want to play with again. The thing is, his contract, it's going to go for a couple more years. He's not going to be a free agent until 2026 or 2027 if he wants to, because he's going to make $23.7 million this year, $25.5 million the next year, $27.5 million in 2024, and then he has a $29.4 million player option in 2025 and 2026. And I would bet right now that he probably picks up that option, because I don't know if Julius Randle will ever get that type of money in free agency. I do think his contract is movable, though. I don't think this is some terrible piece that the Knicks are going to have to add assets to. The contract-wise, the player, the person, and the guy that Julius Randle is, maybe you'll have to add assets to that to get rid of him, but it won't be the contract that's holding him back. So we'll get to more Knicks news and rumors in a second, but I want to ask you guys this question. Should the Knicks actually trade Julius Randle? It's a really hot topic right now amongst every New York Knicks fan, and as we are hours away from NBA free agency, could they go and make that trade happen? Let me know what you think. Sound off. Be proud. Type T for trade, or you can go down in the comment section and type K for keep. Let's focus on a player that sounds like he's coming back to the New York Knicks for sure, in Money Mitchell Robinson. He is expected to sign a 4-year, $60 million extension with the New York Knicks once NBA free agency opens. $15 million per year for Mitchell Robinson, I think, is a solid number. We'll compare that to what other centers are making in the NBA this past season, but when you look at what Robinson has done on the court the past couple of years, or really through his first 4 years of his NBA career, he's been solid. This past year, 8.5 rebounds, 8.5 points, almost 2 blocks per game, and 26 minutes per night, and only missed 10 games. That was key for Mitchell Robinson, because prior seasons, he's missed a lot of time. He played in 31 games in 2020, 61 games in 2019, and 66 games in 2018. If he can give you north of 60 games and just be that dominant shot-blocking big, the rim-running big, with a lot of defensive intangibles that he can go to the three-point line and switch and pick-and-roll situations, I'm cool with giving him $15 million. But he has to get better on offense. He has to become a better free throw shooter. He can't just be an alley-oop or bust on offense. That's for sure. I like Robinson, but I don't know if I would pay him much more than $15 million. Because when you look at how much centers are being paid in the NBA, the good ones are really expensive. Rudy Gobert's got paid $35 million this past year. Cat got 32. Jokic got 31.5, same as Embiid. Al Horford with 27. He doesn't fit in this tax bracket, in my opinion. I don't think he's Miles Turner. I don't think he's Clint Capella or Steven Adams. But this next group, with Jonas Valanciunas making $14 million and Yusuf Nurkic making $12 and James Wiseman making $9 on that rookie deal. Then you got Serge Ibaka, who made $10 this past year. Now he's a free agent. Rashawn Holmes signed for $10 million. I think $10 to $15 million is fair for Mitchell Robinson. But I wouldn't go much higher than that, because I don't think you can build a championship-level team when you have a center in Robinson who doesn't give you anything on the offensive end. You have to use that money to spend on more pieces, and with $15 million only going to Robinson, I think you can carve out and niche out a really good roster going forward for the New York Knicks. But I'll ask you guys this question, and then we'll talk more about some backup bigs that have been rumored to the Knicks. But $15 million per year for Mitchell Robinson. Is that too much? Is he worth that? Is it not enough? Let me know what you think. Type Y for yes if you think he's worth $15 million, or N for no if you don't think he's worth it. The latest reports are the Knicks are looking for a backup center. The plan is to go and re-sign Mitchell Robinson, and they want to get a backup center in. And they're looking at 2 different guys, according to the latest reports by Ian Begley. Andre Drummond and Isaiah Hartenstein. 2 different players. Drummond is like Robinson. Really, he only hangs around the rim on offense, putbacks, dunks, pick and rolls, and he's a decent shot blocker and a really good rebounder. While Hartenstein shown this past year in Los Angeles that he can stretch the floor a little bit. He added the three-point ball this year and converted on a very effective percentage. But this was the full report by Ian Begley. He said, I'd expect the Knicks to waive Taj Gibson and then give strong consideration to signing him to a new contract later in the offseason, which would clear up $5 million and get the Knicks to $36 million in cap space. Though, as SNY reported, the club have several backup centers on its radar. Among them, Isaiah Hartenstein and Andre Drummond. Bleacher Report first noted that Hartenstein is on the Knicks' radar. The Knicks will be aggressive in their pursuit of him per SNY sources. The Orlando Magic, as Mark Stein reported, is also a suitor for Hartenstein, and teams with interest in Drummond say the Knicks have a degree of interest in the center. So let's compare what both these guys did in the 2021 season, where Drummond played 19.7 minutes per game and Hartenstein played a tick under 17.9 minutes per game. I like Hartenstein because he can stretch the floor a little bit. Added that three-point ball to his game this year, converted almost on 50% of his attempts, just shot 30 attempts but made 14 of them. He's a little bit more efficient on offense as well, 62.6% from the field compared to 57 for Drummond. I think he's a better player, and that's who I'm going with in free agency. Give me Isaiah Hartenstein to add to this offense, to space out the court, because that's what we're going to need. Because when you think about it like this, Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, and Jalen Brunson are three guys that are best inside the three-point line. Inside there is where they do their most damage. We know that Jalen Brunson is very crafty around the rim. He's got all the fakes and the pump fakes to make you shake, as Clyde Frazier would say. But he has to have room to operate. And when you have Hartenstein on the court, he can be that stretch five. Because in Dallas, they played that five-out offense, and Brunson had all the room to operate. And then when you throw in Randle and RJ, the spacing could be a little bit clunky if you added a guy like Drummond. I think the Knicks need to go out, whether it's Hartenstein, Mo Bamba, somebody else make a trade. They go out and make something happen when it comes to adding a stretch big. Because you need to space this court, and you need to let the young guys eat. And Barrett, Brunson, and even a guy like Randle, because whether he has more room to operate, he's definitely a better player, no doubt about it. But to wrap up today's show, I'll ask you guys this question, and then we'll get out of here as we got some breaking news to get to in a second. Type IS if you think the Knicks should sign Isaiah Hartenstein, or type AD if you think Andre Drummond should be the guy the Knicks go and sign. We got some breaking news to get to on New York Knicks Now. I'm seeing it on my timeline right now. Brooklyn Nets GM says, I have it right here. Brooklyn Nets GM Sean Marks is working with Kevin Durant and his business manager Rich Kleiman, and Kevin Durant has requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. Here we go, as someone would like to say. Buckle up. Kevin Durant has requested a trade. Could the Knicks look to make a move for him? I'm sure we'll be talking about it very, very soon. That's why you hit that big red button for breaking news, and let's go. Let's be ready. NBA free agency is here. I'm hyped up. I'll see you guys in a couple of hours.